this.
You live?
And now.
Are we live?
I don't know. I think I'm live.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. It's way early.
It is way early on Black Friday at Suzie.
What is it about you that we have to do stupid o'clock on Black Friday? Nobody else does it. Is that why?
Well, maybe it's just the little boomer in me.
Because, the whole Black Friday sale thing is kind of waning a little bit over the last 3 years or so.
Locally.
Do you think it's still big elsewhere?
Yeah, I think it's still big elsewhere. I know like Atlanta's just massive. And, there was, back in the day, the whole riots and rush the stores and all that.
I don't think that's happening quite so much.
Not quite, because they kind of extended it out. But it's really kind of apt to be talking about it because of our topic today is going to be stagflation. With the constriction of services, we might see a rise in it again.
With the skimpflation?
Yeah.
You said stagflation.
Oh, okay. Skimpflation.
Skimpflation, yes.
So
yeah, we can see that. I mean, obviously, if there's... See, one of the things that's a concern with the whole Black Friday thing, when I was working retail, and I did, I worked big box store. Everybody worked on Black Friday. That was a blackout day for scheduling. It was all that day, and inventory was all hands on deck.
Okay, I can see that.
Straight up, everybody had something that needed to be. Everyone was on staff, and it started early and it ended late. And it was exciting and fun. And I always like to do the early shift because then I can get my butt out of there before it got too late. And I could do, But yeah, I mean, I did Black Friday. Oh gosh, what was the big thing that year?
Well, I know you did one with the toy store.
I did one of the toy. I did
and
one
it
of
was
the
like
toy
it was a Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was a big one. And then Furbies were hot one year when I was working retail. And Tamagotchis. It was Tamagotchis that year. That was the big toy. But that's the kind of thing that Black Friday is gotten. It got big. And I think it popped, at least around here. Because our local big toy store used to do a big Black Friday giveaway. They're not doing that anymore. They haven't done that for years.
No, I know like Performance Shoes is got like envelopes. They're randomizing on the way in.
Here's your this could be 5%, this could be 50% kind of thing.
I'm not exactly sure because
I know like Penny's does things like that.
Yeah. Penny's did things. Well, they did things. I don't know if they're doing that anymore.
I don't know either. I mean, it used to be Walmart was the king of it.
But they kind of eased back because of the violence and stuff.
They were definitely having some. Well, people were dying. Let's be realistic.
People were dying.
Let's be honest. People were dying because.
There's even instructional videos on how to do the fight videos.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's how bad I got.
People were let's for a big screen TV. Yeah, how ridiculous is that?
Let's talk about a few things. Let's talk about inflation.
Because that seems to be, we are on track for a 30-year high.
On track for a 30-year high. Typically, if you look at it long term.
Yeah.
Inflation is one of those things that comes and goes.
Yep, lots of waxing and waning.
Usually, the Fed focuses on a 2% growth and 2% inflation.
Okay.
We're about at 6%.
So it's a little high. It's actually quite a bit high.
That's temporary. That's seen as temporary because of supply chain issues.
Right, and that is directly related to COVID and other factors.
Yeah, and it's been building up for the last year or so, and that's a very temporary issue. It just means let's break it down to the supply and demand. The consumers, us,
yes,
have more money. And an increased demand for goods. We're not able to receive those goods because they're not here,
right,
or we're not able to shop for them. Therefore, they're able to, with that increased demand, increase prices,
right,
and that's where you get inflation.
That's inflation. Now, a lot of you see the one of the things the Fed tracks, and correct me if I'm wrong, is primarily what they call durable goods.
Yeah,
refrigerators and cars and some of the big ticket items.
Yeah, they don't track little things, important things like chicken. The price of chicken.
Yeah, and that's important to the small consumer. Groceries, for some reason, is left out of that computation.
I would not be surprised if the next, 5 years or so, they actually look at adjusting what they look at.
They have. I think they have to.
Well, because a lot of those factors came in the 70s.
Yeah.
When they started looking at things, and it hasn't really taken into account, well, like computers and and that level of data that's being mined in things for like Facebook and Twitter and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Why aren't we doing something similar with how the government looks at things?
Because it's the government.
Well, the government's still run by the people, so the people should we should switch this up a little bit.
Well, it's the standard. Yeah, well, it's a bureaucracy thing.
So
they've gotten stuck in a 70s mindset. We'll count things the same way we did 50 years ago.
Yeah, and we should update some of those matrices. Unemployment is another factor in there.
It is. And that's a conversation in its own right.
Well, we've talked about the Great Resignation, and a great many people leaving their jobs.
I've also heard it referred to as a great reassessment.
Reassessment. There's another one. There was a lot of folks that were really critical over the mandates and the loss of employment that would cause.
Right.
However, when the jobs came out, we're at record low for unemployment. We're actually lower unemployment now than we were a year ago.
Oh, interesting.
And that's one of those things that people are not really talking about. It's like, a year ago our unemployment rate was about 6.7.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be high because
we're like a 3.8.
So we're unemployment rates are great
for the across the nation.
So why are the businesses bitching about not being able to find anyone?
Because some of that is manufactured. Like there was that gentleman in Florida who went and he applied for jobs.
Yeah.
At businesses that were complaining about needing people.
Mm-hmm.
He applied for 60 jobs in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And out of those 60, he put in, his resume.
Mm-hmm.
He received interviews for 2.
That's weird.
So remember, these are individuals on social media. These are the hiring people, the managers, the owners complaining about a lack of workers, and then
not actually hiring anyone.
And then, like I said, he got 2, and like one of those was like, "Oh, well, we're hiring for $18," and then they lowballed offer him 11.
Yeah. Now I do know somebody personally here in the Wenatchee Valley who put their resume out and got a year and a half ago did the same thing and got like 1 reply, which did not pan out. Did the same thing 2 months ago, 3 months ago, not that long ago, just a little while ago, and got 26 replies.
Oh wow!
Got a ton of offers, and she could actually pick the plant. She could actually picked her. She had departments fighting for her.
Nice.
Yeah, and now she's got a job, and she's very happy about it. But that's the other side of the coin.
Well, that's the employees seeing that, oh my gosh, I'm valuable. I can ask for a higher.
Yeah, ask for a higher rate, and it's not just wages. They're asking for the other things.
Well, they need to.
Yes,
and
they do.
This is where
the skimpflation, which is our topic today, kicks in.
Now, skimpflation. This is
SKIMP-flation, like skimpy.
Yes, this is where an employer chooses maybe not to hire an extra person. So that there's a little bit longer wait times. They may not offer everything on. They might shorten the menu. You might have to wait longer on hold.
Oh yeah.
They might have all the drive-throughs shut down. That's the one I pointed out. It's like, well, what the heck's up with Wells Fargo?
Oh, those drive-throughs. I was thinking, my head immediately went to restaurants.
You went to restaurants. I'm talking banking because there was for a long time in our valley, banks with these massive footprints.
Oh yeah.
Everyone had a drive-through. There was standalone drive-throughs, like the one next to Liberty Theater that went poof.
Yeah.
Now there's like, there's like Wells Fargo. There's no drive-throughs running.
It's fewer people.
You pointed out was it Key Bank over in East Wenatchee?
Yeah, they did this. They did something too. I think
they poof. They're gone.
Oh no, it's Chase. Completely gone.
All the People's Banks pulled out of the Safeways.
Well, they did that years ago.
Yeah, but this is kind of the kind of the withdrawal, and it's kind of leading to kind of some skimpy services.
Well, a good example of where we experienced some skimpy services is this last summer when we managed to take a few days and get away. We went to a Schwank hotel in Oregon.
Yeah.
And they weren't offering regular maid service.
Yeah, you had to ask for it.
Or they would do it like every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's real typical. They're not doing regular room maintenance.
Yeah.
If you're in there, they're just like, well, there you go. But that's an example of skimpflation.
Well, I remember it was one of the water shortages. They would not have a water glass automatically on the table. You'd have to ask for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. And you have to, if you wanted a glass of water, you had to order it basically. But I don't know if that's skimpflation or if it's just a good example.
Well, they were focused on conserving resources for whatever reason.
Which makes sense.
Management. Woo, management. And however that kind of impacts your stress as an employee. I went into, it was Office Depot, and it was just like, oh my God, this is a horrible situation. We were out of toner, and it's like, okay, so we'll place the order so we can go run and pick it up, and Suzie placed the order and was like, 20 minutes and it's ready for pickup. We didn't receive a notification until 3 hours later that it was ready to go. So this is us using the preferred thing, and I roll in there, and it's a simple press a little click on my phone to get someone to the help desk. It's right in front, literally there with all the toner cartridges. And I looked around, and there was people behind registers waiting in line, and while the poor employees were running around responding to these the customers just pulling in. Yeah. And it was just like, that's bleak. That's dark.
Yeah. Well, what you really, in a situation like that, ideally they should have 1 or 2 people who are dedicated to those. But that's just obviously not the case. They're trying to what this is doing, and this right here, this stretching of the employees, this making them do the work of 3 people is why people are quitting or not taking the job in the first stupid place.
And that's one of those things that you should be concerned about is looking around when you take your options. It's like, okay, cool. I'm hired to be, checkout. Well, are you also hired to pull orders and handle freight? Because you might be doing all 3 at once.
That's right.
And that's kind of starting to get to the level of the craziness.
Yeah. Well, it's been that way. It's been building that way for a long time.
Well, you see that with the profits going up, and that's one of the things that everyone's hasn't been really talking about. Is just like, I want to say the corporate profits are like up 11%.
Yeah, it's definitely bumped up.
This is despite inflation. So it's like, okay, the corporate guys aren't really taking a hit from this, but it's being inflated. When Biden talked about gas prices. The crude oil's at record lows.
And yet our gas prices are higher than they have been.
Correct. Well,
I don't want.
They're about the same price as they were. Actually, they're actually less than they were when Trump left office.
Okay, so they're just right around the same as 2020.
Yeah, they're actually less than when they were.
Well, in 2000, and earlier this year was an anomaly because Fewer people were traveling, so gas prices dropped.
Yes. However, to keep the prices high, that whole supply and demand thing, they let off workers. Mm-hmm. And OPEC saying, no, we're not going to release anymore because we need to keep the prices up high so we make more.
That's right. The Dakota oil fields let a bunch of people, let almost everybody go, didn't they?
Yes.
Now they're going to have to come back, right?
And they have to come back. So that's part of that, supply and demand of even among the workforce.
Well, here's the thing: we've got supply and demand. We've got the demand, but the employers aren't giving us. But there's no supply.
Well, it takes a while for supply chains to
well, that's
start
a rebuild.
flowing.
I mean, we were definitely some hiccups going on, and it's not done. We're not done with the supply chain.
Oh no, we're nowhere near done. But it's one of those things that it takes a time. It takes time to do a short recovery.
Yeah.
If it's long term, it's like, oh no, we're dried up. But like the employee thing, that's a long term thing.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I've been out of my experiences with it was when I was working for a corporate was Treetop, and they just wouldn't hire anybody.
That was Skimpflation.
And so that oh hey, the weekend's coming around, so you got to work a 12-hour shift while the day shift who had seniority, they had the weekends off. And so us at graveyard and swing shifts were working 12-hour shifts because they would refuse to hire anybody.
Yep, absolutely that. And I also know that I've seen that where did I see that last? You see it in grocery stores a lot.
Grocery's been messed up for a long time.
Yeah, it really has. But when I was working in pharmacy, when I first started, there was it was a beautifully staffed. There was plenty of people. There was sometimes you could actually stop for a minute and take a deep breath. You could get a prescription filled in 10 minutes, that kind of stuff. And then what happened was someone retired, someone died, and they didn't get replaced. And they weren't actually working on getting them replaced. They just gave everybody more to do.
Yeah.
And and they said, "Oh, here's this new technology that'll improve efficiency." Well, that's awesome, but it didn't improve customer service.
Yeah, the whole customer interaction.
It just made for much more stress.
Well, I remember going in and picking up our prescriptions the other week, and it was here. I'm here to pick up, and she was like, "Oh well, here it's going to be 20." It's like, no, I don't want it now. I'll come back and pick it up with the other prescriptions at the end of the day.
And you could see the relief on her face, couldn't you?
And she physically had a relief on her face for doing that because I knew where they were at. And I'm like, no, I don't need this immediately. Take your time, do it right. I've changed my habits to accommodate what that corporation is doing to its people.
And I think one of the reasons why you're empathetic to that is because you're married to me who has been through it.
Yeah.
Other people don't get it. They just don't understand.
No. Yeah. And it's just like, no.
But here's the thing. That now is getting violent. People are getting physically and emotionally and verbally abused.
Yeah, we got to treat our people better than that.
We really do. I mean, there's an entire, quote, Karen thing. It's like, what the hell, people?
Yeah, it's and that's...
there's always been people like that, but it seems to have gotten a little out of hand.
Well, it's the out of control in your own life, so you got to you got to kick the puppy.
Kick the puppy, yeah.
And that's what I've always referred to it. I've heard people say, "Oh, you're punching down, or you're kicking down. You're causing harm to someone that has no physical control over the situation for no good reason."
Exactly. Now, in my life, I have run into people who that is their form of entertainment.
Yeah.
That is what they do to make themselves, give themselves something interesting in their world, and beating somebody else down. I've heard stories of people getting spit on getting yelled. It's a lot of it's mask oriented, but it's not just that. It's the customer service and the lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I don't want to blame the people who are working. I don't know who to blame here. I mean, because I guess on one side I understand employer's I understand the employer's frustration, because I've talked to some employers who I've hired people and they suddenly decide they don't want to come back to work. They work one shift or they don't even show up for their first shift. So it's been that's weird on their end.
Well, you've got a couple different things going on. You've got some that have this history of horrible treatment to their employees.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you've got some that are struggling to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you've got employees over here that have, struggled with various degrees and are saying, okay, well, maybe this is my opportune time to move on.
Yeah.
And do something else.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've also seen is you've got this whole abuse from big employers. I think the small employers are getting trickle down poo from the abuse of the big employers.
Well, they're going to have to, because if you think about it, the bigger guys are supplying some of us little guys.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, if a person has worked for the big guys and been shoveled garbage for years until they finally got laid off for COVID, and it's like, I'm going to go do something else. So they go and they look for a job and they apply with a small business, and they've got PTSD. They've got employer PTSD, and they don't trust the new owner to not treat them like garbage.
Well, maybe they need like the rebound job.
Yeah, I had a rebound job.
You had a rebound job.
I called it my palate cleanser.
That was Pier 1.
It was Pier 1. Thank you, Pier 1, for saving my bacon that time.
Mm-hmm. And you got to get in and you got to have fun, with a bunch of 20-year-olds.
I got to and prove my worth doing something completely different from what I had been doing, which is what I had done that kind of stuff before, but it was a totally different experience, and I really desperately needed it during that time.
Yeah, and
But yeah, I had workplace PTSD.
Yeah,
that
doesn't surprise me at all. On a regular basis, I was like, "Oh, why don't you look for another job?" Or here, why don't you work on this resume?
Yeah, I know.
I had to enable the heck out of you.
You did, and unfortunately, I was still real resisty until they fired me.
Yeah, and even that was a trial and tribulation.
Yes,
because they turned around and denied your unemployment.
They tried to deny my unemployment. I did prevail.
Yeah, well, it was trumped up garbage.
It was trumped up garbage
because it was a toxic employer.
Very much so.
And some of that had to do with the management was. Well, they were overeducated and without a skill set.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain skill set when you lead people, and for the most part, I've never seen the majority of pharmacies don't have it.
No. Well, if you think about a pharmacist coming out of school, they're not trained in management. They're not trained in working retail. They're trained in pharmacy.
Yeah.
They're trained in pharmacokinetics and in interactions, and they're not trained in people management.
No.
That's honestly not their job, yet it is their job.
Yeah, but it's magically become their job, and it's like, here you go. You've had 8 years of schooling. You should be able to write a schedule.
Yeah.
And that's the expectation.
That's true. I have literally seen people who've been out of college this was their first job in retail as a pharmacist. They just did green as grass out of college, put in the management position.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, oh my God, you really want these people to fail, don't you? That is generally setting someone up for failure.
Oh, yeah. And that is it's the upper management's failure.
Yes, there. It is over. It's over the heads, and that's no question there.
Oh yeah,
but that's back to big corporate though.
It's big corporate. It's
So
the
what
what's good for the bottom line.
And I've been saying that for years, though. They every time they cut back hours and refuse to staff and have the people that are putting in the 8-hour days doing the work of 3 or 4 people. It's like, what the heck, man? And they've done that, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Well, our industry, our insurance,
the insurance industry is overall trying to force the consumer into automation. They are.
Well, there's a number of little tricks they're doing. Well, one is first and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room.
Yes.
We are paid by commissions.
Yes.
So that we're not paid directly by the company. We're not a company employee. And that was kind of crafted so that they wouldn't have to pay ridiculous hours.
It's true, because we were talking about this last night. If there's no way, if we were working on an hourly budget, someone paying us by the hour, that we would be here at 6:57 a.m.
Yeah, we it's like, our last day off before Thanksgiving was October.
I don't even remember when.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
It's been weeks since we've had a day.
Yeah, and that's and that's why we're kind of looking at the phone on Thanksgiving ring, and it's like, no, that's going to go to voicemail, and we're going to drops, and we're going to.
Yeah, well, we bugged out a little bit early on Wednesday, which we have the right to do. Thank you very much.
But that's part of it, and it's
and we had 8 voicemails waiting for us.
Yeah, there was that expectation of service on demand.
Yeah, that's problematic. That is the whole 24/7 customer service thing. That it's become.
So there wouldn't be agents if there wasn't that whole skimpflation.
Yes.
Just point blank, there wouldn't be agents. Because I'm like looking at the navigators, because the navigators are hourly employees in most cases. And so 40 hours is not before you get any overtime, and it's like we look at them as like, oh, we wish you had 40 hours. No,
I stopped counting how many hours of work.
We do.
No, there's no point. I mean, we get it. We drop our kid off at school. We roll in here, and I'm happy to be here before 8:00 because it gives me a few minutes to catch up before I start the day.
So our industry and what we do is literally been created because of earlier skimpflation.
Yeah, I guess that's the way to look at it.
So it's one of those things. It creates things. And when we add things to our business, it's usually because of someone being skimpy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we don't have time for a person, with this company to sit down and talk about it. Or talk about the other plans. Or, we've had people roll in here. It's like, all they handed me was a sheet and said, you go do it yourself. And it's like, a lot. And we see that a lot. And it's like, okay, well, and that's on how we literally have built our business.
Filling in the gaps.
Filling in the gaps. It's like, I don't have dental, or I don't have vision. Those were the first 2 things. Or I need better help with Medicare, and we brought that in. Or we need better help with life insurance. And we start to build our model because of the community around us.
Exactly.
And when I say the community around us, that includes the ones that are saying, you can't do this.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Well, we had someone roll in and we were told that they weren't not able to do a application over the phone. That was happening a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we were like, really? We've been doing this for years. Yeah. Come in. We'll take care of it. We can do it over you can set an appointment. We'll do it. So we've literally built, that over the phone. And the larger corporations are going to continue to skimp on things.
Yeah, because to be honest, they're looking at the big guys, the top 1% of those corporations, your CEOs, your CFOs. They are looking for their personal dollar. They're looking for their bonuses. They're looking for their stock options. They're looking for those numbers to be increased for their personal benefit. And yes, I am being very cynical here right now. They are not looking out. Well, theoretically, they're looking out for the stockholders, but because they're the stockholders.
Yeah, they're the stockholders because they do the buyout. The trick with the big corporations is, what is the minimum that the top management can do to retain customers and get paid?
Yeah,
and it's that minimal.
Yeah,
and it's literally that minimal.
Yep.
You know
what is possible,
and there are some that have crossed the line and said, okay, what's the least amount that I can do that I'll get sued for, even with a bad product?
Yeah, if I get sued, which is cheaper for me to change the product or take the lawsuits?
Yeah,
and they've totally there's an entire freaking industry based on that kind of concept.
So yeah, that skimpflation is a real thing. It's been around for decades. It's something.
It's got a newish name. The skimpflation is a newish name.
It's a newish name, but it's been around there. I want to say it's that redefinition of capitalism, and it becoming irresponsible. Yeah. So that's where we're going to leave it. Is, hey, be responsible to yourself, be responsible for your community around you, and you can grow a business that way by filling in those gaps.
Yes,
and we're going to see a lot of those gaps filled in, and there's going to be panic.
Oh yeah,
because panic keeps things stagnant.
People get afraid and they hunker down.
And they hunker down, or they're afraid to make that leap.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, we'll enable the heck out of you. Here, have some health care. Here, have some life insurance.
Yeah. Here,
jump over here, talk to this person, and design webs by yourself and make money that way.
There you go. Yeah, we'll enable you. I have no problem with that.
So yeah, hey.
I've done it before. I will do it again.
So hey, in the holiday season is upon us. There's something like 50 some odd holidays in the month of December.
It's kind of ridiculous. It's fun.
We're giving away a cookie jar. So if you're local,
it is an awesome cookie jar, by the way.
It's awesome.
Well, it's so funny because I ordered it because I wanted it for myself, and I said, you know what, we should just give this away.
Yep. And it's got a seal on it. It is awesome, from Calamity Ware, because it's the Vigilant Dragon.
Vigilant Dragon cookie jar. Check it out on our Facebook. It's pretty darn awesome. And tell us your favorite treat for the holidays, and you might win it. Correct. You got to fill out the form, and part of that. Yeah, it's a quickie jot form. It's easy peasy. So yeah, hey, have a great day. We'll be out of here at 9 because we've already been here we'll have already been here for 5 hours. And then we're back on the weekends. Yeah, we'll be back at 1:00 on Saturday. So bye bye. Have a lovely day. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye.